Hi, welcome to Talking Text. Our passage is 1 Peter chapter 4 from verse 7. The end of all things is at hand. Therefore be self-controlled and sober-minded for the sake of your prayers. Above all, keep loving one another earnestly, since love covers a multitude of sins. Show hospitality to one another without grumbling. Peter reminds his believers that the end of all things is at hand. This world is temporary and ending. And in light of that, he says, be self-controlled and sober-minded. Twice in this book already, he's urged his believers to think correctly about the death and resurrection of Jesus, and now about the temporary nature of this world. And he says, do this for the sake of your prayers, or so that you can pray, another translation says. Realizing the nature of this world helps us with our prayers. Above all, he says, keep loving one another. He says that love is above all when it comes to the believer. Love ought to be our top priority, and it's above the right to be first or even wanting to be first. It's above the right to hold on to unforgiveness. Above all things, above everything, Peter says love. And he says love one another earnestly. I want to ask you, is your love earnest? Is it real? It's easy to pay lip service or to just say words of love, but an earnest, a real deep love. Do you genuinely love people? Is there actual real love for people? And then he describes it. He goes, since this kind of love covers a multitude of sins. And that's the kind of love that Jesus had for us, where his love was the reason that he came to forgive us and came to cover our sins. This is what an earnest love looks like, when we desire for others to be well, to be blessed, to be covered, to be whole. That is our hope and our desire when we love people for them. Our desire isn't to expose and to break down. Earnest love covers a multitude of sins. Are you the kind of believer who has an earnest love for others, where that kind of love is reflected by you wanting the best for people and wanting redemption for people, not wanting punishment for people? He goes on to say, show hospitality to one another without grumbling. Hospitality is simply honoring others, putting others before yourself, doing kindness towards others, not pushing them aside, but rather honoring and putting them first. And so he says, believers who have an earnest love and a love that covers also learn to show hospitality and to one another. And it says without grumbling, which is probably the most challenging part of that verse. Often when we need to do things for others, we tend to grumble because it's affecting us. It's somehow imposing on us. Well, an earnest love is reflected in a desire for the best for others, in honoring and showing kindness towards others, even to the point of without grumbling, where it's our joy to serve and love others, as it was Jesus' joy to love and rescue us. And so this is the kind of earnest love Peter is urging the believers towards. I want to ask you, is your love an earnest and real love? Be blessed, and thanks for letting the text talk.